So this one says, I turned 50 in a few days. Congratulations. I developed anxiety and depression about 5 years ago and have been on SSRIs, which are antidepressants, which were helping until about 6 months ago, which is also when my periods became less frequent and more irregular. My anxiety has become crippling. I upped my dose of SSRIs, but has made little difference. How come no one told me about HRT? Well, I thought you were going to ask me a different question than that, but obviously I think you're already on the right track here. Not sure how I'm supposed to answer this question. I don't know why no one told you.
You need new friends.
Yeah, I don't know. Or again, or maybe a new physician. But yeah, it sounds like you know what I'm about to say, which is, and maybe she's just helping me say it. But yeah, there's a huge connection between certain hormones, particularly testosterone, and anxiety and depression. And anxiety and depression are linked. I won't give you I'm not a psychiatrist, but the basic thing is about flow, we call it, and anxiety and depression are linked. If there's too much anxiety, you could argue, I use the example of a pipe, that's designed, say you got a foot diameter pipe and you've got another pipe leading to that, which is, 3 feet in diameter that narrows down very quickly to the 1 feet. Well, that would be considered the energy of anxiety that then, gets funneled down to a 1 foot diameter pipe. And the physics of it is, in short, that slows the flow. And when you're in the flow, you're feeling good. When you're not, you're typically depressed or anxious. But in today's world, there's much more of that type of anxiety-related depression from too much stimulation and sympathetic nervous system drive than there is the opposite. From days gone by when people were literally not well nourished and didn't have energy for a lot of other reasons. So that instead of that situation, you've got a lack of flow on this end because of a lack of energy, a lack of if we're talking water being the stuff that's flowing, you've got very little trickling through the pipe, so there is no flow because of that, period, right? It's not a matter of anxiety. There's no energy because there's nothing there, so to speak. So we have much more in this day and age of the former. And so anyway, quick psychiatry primer there. The SSRIs are used to sort of pull the plug on that excess energy so that you're starting with something that could fit more easily into that 1 foot diameter pipe instead of this 3 foot diameter pipe, right? And that's why a lot of times once whomever's been prescribed the SSRIs as antidepressants, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors is what that stands for. Say, well, yeah, I'm better now. I got over the incident, the trauma, let's say, the death of a loved one, whatever. It's been 6 months or a year. Yeah, I don't feel depressed anymore, but I don't feel anything anymore because the plug got pulled again.
Right.
And now they're in that the secondary example where it's pulled too much and they don't have any zest for life anymore. And so it's a different feeling that's no bueno.
Yeah.
This is very typical. And one more quick psychiatry primer is, if it's in your genes, so to speak, if it's in your nature, your constitution to be depressed, it usually hits in late teens, early 20s. These are people that are, when does a loved one typically die? If it's your parents, for example, it's, you're in your midlife.
Right.
Well, what also happens in midlife? Your hormones start to go south. Well, all this is leading up to an explanation of why this makes sense that, she could be experiencing anxiety and depression because her hormones, specifically testosterone, has been lowered by Mother Nature. Testosterone is nature's antidepressant, very tightly associated with a sense of well-being, confidence, and a lack of anxiety, right? I use the example when you're sick, the world sucks. You got the flu and you're in bed and the world's terrible. And you can be anxious when you're not feeling your best because you're not feeling your best. You got to go out and do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And then, for example, the sickness thing, you heal and, 3 weeks later, the world is great again. Well, the world didn't change. You changed.
Right.
Same thing internally here. Your testosterone levels drop and you feel anxious. You can feel depressed. Put that back in the tank and life is good again. So I think that's what I don't know, it's prompting me to ramble on about here. I don't know why no one told you about it, but I hope that you're saying, hey, you tried testosterone, and so maybe she's asking about TRT, because you're already on estrogen and progesterone and things got better. But that's what I would say if that's not the case to anyone who's maybe in a similar situation.
Yeah. The missing part. All right. Thanks, Doc.
All right, this is the last one we got for this week or this month, whatever this is for us. I'm 50 years old and have been on HRT. People keep saying HRT. This is interesting. HRT, hormone replacement therapy, as opposed to TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, for over 3 years at various doses, but it has never resolved my mood issues, but has been great for my night sweats. So that's interesting because the implication there is that HRT in this case is referring to, again, hormone replacement therapy, and this is where it comes, back to something we said before about OBGYNs and their practice is usually to the exclusion of testosterone and just progesterone and estrogen, and dealing with estrogen deficiency symptoms mainly, which include night sweats and hot flashes, and eventually, typically not till you're in your 60s, but I'm just saying typically, vaginal dryness. So again, this implies estrogen replacement and possibly, most likely, progesterone if she has a uterus. But anyway, so she says, I'm still having awful crying spells and think it's my own fluctuations causing them. I went on HRT, again, likely estrogen, to stop all this when at 47 years old, I had sudden onset of panic attacks and crying spells that haven't stopped. I'm not sure if she means that she started HRT when she was 47 because she had those, or she started at 47 and then suddenly has had panic attacks and crying. It doesn't matter, though, because the issue here, I would say, based upon what I've already sort of deduced, is that, yeah, she's using estrogen replacement therapy for night sweats, but she's missing the component that helps with, and we talked in this in an earlier one about anxiety and depression. Panic attacks being a much more acutely powerful form of anxiety, if anyone's ever had one, they're no fun. And crying spells, so depression, anxiety. This goes back to testosterone being nature's antidepressant. This is going to be a brief one because I know we've talked about it before. She should consider with her physician whether she should be using testosterone replacement along with what we're presuming here is her estrogen and likely progesterone to go with it. At 50 years old, it's likely that your estrogen is low, but that means more than likely the hormones above it are also low, meaning those that start with cholesterol and make their way down in general categories: pregnenolone, progesterone, DHEA, testosterone. I didn't do that in order. And then finally, though, estrogen. So again, if estrogen is low, the one above it, testosterone, is probably also low. So highly likely that that's what's missing, and that will even out her moods, make her feel better, more confident, less depressed, less anxious, and hopefully those crying spells and panic attacks will go away.
But a lot of girls, a lot of women will go see women doctors because they're more comfortable with that, I guess. Hormone doctors that are female, and that's what they'll do. They'll put them on progesterone and estrogen, and they just never put them on testosterone. I know someone like that, actually, personally.
Well, I mean, I don't know because I'm not a female going around to OBGYNs, but I will say this. I mean, it should be in my experience, it's across the board instead of a gender thing. I understand that because we have, Kristen, who works with us. Mm-hmm. We have her because she's great. But one of the boons of having her on board is that, Dr. Todd is, obviously another male. And there are some women that just, for good reason, feel more comfortable talking to women. Yeah. And so I get that part and really do. I'm not just, given sort of what could be considered a politically correct response. I like talking to a physician who's also an athlete when I'm talking about athlete problems. You know?
Right,
So I totally get it.
Yeah.
If a female looks at me and says, "Well, you have no idea what it's like to have,
Exactly.
period cramps. You don't even have a uterus, dude." So,
Exactly.
and I get it. Okay, I can only imagine. You're right. But to your point, though, well, to mine about that, OBGYNs obviously can be male or female. And it's the OBGYN profession, with all due respect, I'm not knocking anyone in particular, I'm just saying what I've observed, just doesn't, to your point, deal with testosterone as they should. They seem to restrict it to the anatomy, meaning the uterus and its effect, hormones on fertility, and the estrogen portion, which is the night sweats and hot flashes, and eventually vaginal dryness, which is down the road. Prior to that, by definition, in the 35 area. And I see it, even earlier than that because of stress and other factors in, say, age 30 or even sometimes even earlier in life. Testosterone is diminished first, and that can cause all kinds of problems related to, like in her case, what we would call psych issues, panic attacks and crying spells.
I hope they watch your videos, man. And those people.
Me too.
They have to.
Hopefully it helps.
Yeah. Thanks, Doc.